Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, Bruce. I'm doing okay. I'm on a beer league hockey team, and we're in the finals now. We won our game last night, and we've made it to the city finals for Tier 8 of the NCHL. So there you go.
When's your big finale?
Next Tuesday night. It's a 3-game series. This is
really?
serious,
best of
serious
three.
stuff for us. Yeah, very professional.
It's like the Canada Cup.
It is indeed.
That's the three final.
I'm the Doug Crossman of the team. 1980 sports reference that no one will get except for you.
I got it.
All right.
On that great Flyers team that took us to Game 7 in the 87 Stanley Cup Finals that year, Doug Crossman.
He was indeed. So. Mike Keenan coached that team. Bruce, this is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast about the Oilers' 5-1 loss to the Minnesota Wild. A decidedly wretched game. Let's just get right into it. What's your good thing, Bruce?
Yeah. Well, I guess my main good thing is that the Oilers aren't in the same division as the Wild anymore. When Minnesota joined the league in 2000, they came right into the Northwest Division, as it was known at that time, and started inflicting pain and suffering on Oilers fans from early days, either by beating the Oilers or playing boring hockey or their specialty, both. And I'll say this about them. They no longer play boring hockey, so there's that. But I'm sure glad they're not in our division, because that would mean more games per year, A, to rack up 0 points in the standings, and B, for us to have to watch and discuss and grade. But also they'd be right in the bloody way in the playoff picture, not only making it harder to get into the playoffs, but with a higher likelihood of having to meet them in the playoffs. And I want nothing to do with these guys ever again. Last year was great. They were not in our division, no games, no losses. This year, 3 straight blowout losses to the Wild. This is the second season in a row where they have crossed over and played, that the Wild have swept the season series with 3 regulation wins. And this year, the games were not even close. So there's, precious little to say good about that game, other than, well, it's good in this way. I did not blow any gaskets really watching that game, or it was the great Casey Stengel used to say, in the 154 game baseball season, he says, as a manager, he says, I know before the season starts there's 50 games that are going to go our way and we're going to win no matter what I do, and there's 50 games that we're going to lose and the other guys are going to have their way and we're going to lose no matter what I do, and it's the other 54 games where I have to earn my keep. And this game was one of the 50 losses, and it was established very early on that Edmonton was the second best team on the ice in this game, and they were not going to get any joy in Minnesota again.
Yeah, after the second Wild goal early in the second period, Bruce, I was just hoping they could have just called the game off.
Run the clock, straight time.
Yeah, that's right. There's some kind of 2-goal rule against the Wild. Once you're down by 2 and you're the Oilers, you just give up because there's no hope. And I was just really wishing that, especially because I my job to grade the game tonight. It was not an enjoyable task or an enjoyable game to watch. This is
a Wild fan, I guess.
It looks like the Montreal Canadiens from 1976. When they were playing. Like they make the Wild look so good, don't they? It's just painful.
Well, I wrote a note to you in our grade A shots document that we keep during the game, and I said, based on what I've seen from the 3 games against Edmonton, I predict that Minnesota will sweep to the Stanley Cup in 16 games because they're invincible. Like they're just on some other level. On some other level from Edmonton.
I mean, Jonas Brodin looks like Serge Savard, and I don't know, Kaprizov is like a fired up Guy Lafleur. Yeah, it's they come up big against the Oilers. This is not a team the Oilers match up well against. And like you, I hope they don't meet them in the playoffs, although
Well, it
That would
would
be
mean
okay
that,
too, because
well,
it would
unless
mean
it's
they're
the
in the
first,
conference
yeah,
finals.
yeah,
So that would be,
yeah.
unless it's the first round. Do we know the other
I don't
scores
think
for
that's
tonight? Have you been checking?
possible because I don't think we could. If Oilers got in as a wild card, still Minnesota would have to finish first, and they're not going to. So
Oh, okay.
that's not possible. So,
Okay.
but anyway,
Have you checked the scores tonight? Any of the other ones? Do we know?
all I saw was Calgary was tied with Seattle was the one on TV. Let's bring that up right now because this is going to matter some. Right? Let's just get a little bit of help, hopefully. Flames are ahead
4-3
now.
against the Kraken.
Lightning and Stars are
Canucks
0.
3-2. Canucks
Canucks
3-2
over
over
the
the Knights
Golden.
right now.
Good.
Yeah.
And yeah, well,
For
that would really
Bruins
help.
too.
That
That would really
help.
help if the Canucks can.
Mhm.
And the Kings beat the Blackhawks 5-2 today.
And the Preds beat the Sharks 1-0 in overtime.
Ugh, all right. So not a good night here, unless the Canucks can hold on.
Yeah.
That could happen. That could easily happen. The Canucks are not a bad team. All right, Bruce. And in theory, like they still have some kind of faint hope, the Vancouver Canucks, so they might just be playing this desperate level of hockey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a game they got to win. They got to win this
Yeah.
game or they're done, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, and the Oilers lost, so that might give them some hope. Anyway, Bruce, my good thing is in a game where there was really nothing too good. In the end, I liked Evander Kane's fight.
Mm-hmm.
He was involved in a couple plays late in the game. In the first one, he levels an absolutely wicked boarding hit on Joel Eriksson Ek, which I thought on first glance should have been a penalty, might have been a penalty. When you look at the replay, Ek kind of turns to him. He's certainly looking at him. He kind of has his shoulder. So he kind of hits him in the shoulder numbers, probably more in the, but it was a nasty hit in garbage time. And I just like the message that Kane sent at that moment. Like, I'm an SOB. I hate losing, and I'm going to make you pay for your victory. This is professional hockey. That was a professional foul. That was a nasty little foul to send a message to the other team that we hate your guts. So, as much as that's part of hockey, that kind of intimidation, I like that, Bruce.
I understand the message. I think he crossed the line a little bit to me in that check when he came up with the stick and he kind of got Eriksson Ek kind of in the chin strap area, shall we say, and whether he got him in the chin or in the throat or whatever, with the finish of the check, it was the kind that Department of Player Safety, who just fined the same player $5,000 a day or two ago, might look askance at. We'll see if anything comes of it, but there was no penalty called, but there probably should have been.
I
Anyway,
thought so too. Gave him the old Mark Messier. Then a moment later, completely. Like if you're wondering if you never saw Mark Messier play, that's how he played. Exactly. And that was a value, right? There's value in that kind of play, especially as the playoffs come along. Having that kind of toughness on your team, it helps your team. A moment later, Kailer Yamamoto gets in a sequence where between him and the Minnesota Wild players hacking and hitting each other, there could have been 5 minor penalties, maybe 4 of them to the Wild and 1 of them to the Yamamoto, or maybe 3-2, depending on how you score it. But there was lots of holding and hacking going on between Yamamoto, Kaprizov, and one other player. I can't remember who it was, but they're really going at it. And finally, Kane sees some of this. He sees Yamamoto getting bashed, and he just comes in and hammers Kaprizov. He punches him in the head a couple times. And again, Bruce, I liked it. Did he cross-check him? I liked it because he's coming to defense of his teammate, and he's doing it in a snarly manner against a team that's pretty tough. You know, a team that throws out a lot of hits. So they had it coming. That's all I'm saying. I liked Kane's fight in those instances.
So by fight, you mean battle level, because he definitely wanted to fight, and so did Ryan Hartman. And one linesman played hero and broke it up, and then the second guy got in and stopped the actual fight from developing. But
Yeah.
the scrum was something else, man. It was Kane against five guys. It seemed like at one point, and it's not like the Oilers weren't in there, but all the Minnesota guys were going after Kane, and what he did to me, like I didn't like the first hit. I thought one on Eck was dirty. The one on Kaprizov, like he just gave back Kaprizov what he'd just given to Yamamoto, which is a high cross
Yeah.
check after the previous fouls, and somebody on Minnesota hacked Yamamoto on the leg, and then Kaprizov came in with a gratuitous cross check, and Kane just came and he just gave him the same kind of high, but not in the head level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Minnesota guys all waded in and started tossing glove punches and stuff. And then Ryan Hartman comes charging in out of nowhere and he jumps in and he tries to grab Kane. And that's when the linesman broke them up. And after that, uh, while they were separating the two, Hartman actually gave Kane the finger. Like
He did give him the finger.
I've seen
How often do you
that
see
too
that?
often.
You
I've
think
not
you'd see it
seen
more
that too
often,
often.
right, Bruce?
Yeah,
And then
well,
if you're lip reading Jay Woodcroft, he's
oh,
dropping a few F bombs. Jay Woodcroft is he's
yeah.
you can lip read it pretty clearly. Like,
Mhm.
how is that not an effing penalty?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
well, yeah.
bad.
Anyway, yeah. Somehow out of that, Hartman got. I said to my wife, Hartman's getting an extra 10 for that for sure, but he didn't get an extra 10 because he got 2 and 10, and Kane got 2 and 10. So he got two for cross checking Kaprizov, and Kaprizov got nothing for an identical cross check about an eighth of a second before the other one. The refs had to be looking at it by this point, and that's what had Woodcroft going. I'm sure of it. And funny thing, I said to my wife earlier, they'd had a clip from Jay Woodcroft smiling, urbane, Jay Woodcroft always at ease in front of a microphone. And I said to Anna, I wonder if he's one of these guys that just never uses the F bomb. Like I've never seen any evidence, that he's a, well, I saw the evidence tonight, and yes, I can confirm he does use the F bomb. And twice that was on camera, uh, he was saying, is that not a penalty? You could lip read, and he was gesturing out to where Kaprizov had cross-checked Yamamoto. And you know what, David? He had a very good point. And you know what? I like that. Like that was almost my good thing. I like a coach that has spirit and will respond to something that's going on in the game. And I like, frankly, a coach that'll rip the refs once in a while during a game. Got so tired of coaches turning the other cheek, whatever happening, and just not getting animated. Tell you what, get animated, get your team involved, get in there. So good on you, Jay Woodcroft. That was I didn't mind that one little bit. He didn't cross-check
Yeah,
anybody in the
Woodcroft.
throat either. He just made his point.
Yeah, he seems to be growing into this role. Like,
Mhm.
he's had a lot of time in pro hockey and
Yeah.
he's watched a lot of commanding and domineering coaches in Babcock and McClellan, right? Like he's seen guys
Yeah.
who command with
Hmm.
their presence. And I think he's picked up a few tricks. And you can see
Hmm.
in his demeanor,
Hmm.
he's standing there like Napoleon Bonaparte part of the time. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, because the other part of the time he comes across as this nice, mild mannered teacher kind of person.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, but he does have that air about him now and then, and I like that for an NHL coach. I think you need that because it's a very pressure packed and difficult job and you got
Hmm.
to be able to stand up for yourself. All
And your
right,
team.
and your team, which he did. All right,
Yes.
Bruce, your bad thing.
Oh, let's hide your eyes, bad David. Oh, and I'm going to go with the defense pairing of the May-December defense pairing of Duncan Keith with Evan Bouchard. And especially Duncan Keith had a horrible time tonight. He posted a -4 in this game, and we had him responsible for one, two, three, 4 goals against. Look at that. He made a mistake, and a pretty big one on basically all four of the goals that made it 4-0. Uh, Starting with the clangor of clangors in this game, a direct pass to the goal scorer in the slot who just walked in and Deke Koskinen and put it in. That was Freddie Goodrow. Nice play by him
Yeah,
to accept the gift and not panic and just make the deposit. But Keith, I think, was trying to pass to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in the slot, and
Oh,
just flat out missed it and put it on Goudreau's stick. So that made it 1-0 at 5:37 of the first period. And then in the second period, in about a 10-minute span, well, Keith and Bouchard both were burned on the first two goals, both of which involved a turnover by Bouchard. One where Keith kind of fed him a very soft, easy pass in the corner, and Minnesota guy took a run at Bouchard. He just kind of coughed it up, trying to move it up the boards, and it just went right to Minnesota and around the horn and in the net. And the other one was was he he couldn't make a play along the boards. He was Bouchard. He was trying to make a short pass along the boards, and it got picked off. And not quite as egregious a turnover, but a turnover nonetheless. And Keith was unable to defend the shot on the one, and he was involved in directly in the turnover on the other one.
on that one, Bruce, I didn't know what Pugliarvi was doing. Like,
No, he
where
was
were
reaching.
you yet? Where were you? Yes, and
He was
Pugliarvi.
reaching.
Keith gives. Is this the one where Keith gives him the suicide pass? Keith gives the suicide pass to Bouchard in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah.
player is bearing down
Mm-hmm.
on Evan Bouchard,
Yeah.
and
That's
not so much on Duncan Keith.
yeah.
And he put it right to Bouchard. So Bouchard puts it. He makes the play that he can. He kind of tries to push it up the boards to Pugliarvi, but
Mm-hmm.
He's not even close. He's blown the zone or something. You can't really tell.
Oh,
He's nowhere
he was there,
up at
but
the point.
reaching from the
Yeah,
outside, and he had a poor game by his lofty standards, and he was burned on 2 goals against, which is very rare. I mean, he's only been on the ice for 2 goals against in the whole time that Woodcroft's been coached. So two in one
yeah.
game with errors on both is not characteristic of that player.
Maybe he was sick. Maybe he was
And then,
sick.
well, he was
Yeah,
sick yesterday. Then
yeah.
on the fourth goal, they split up Keith and Bouchard for a bit and put Keith with his old partner Cece, and I thought, okay, maybe this settle him down, but no. They got the the forwards got running around on that one, and then the puck came to who was it that popped that one home? Ryan Hartman, his first of two, took a pass of Kaprizov, and he got in completely behind Keith, and it was him alone on the goalie because Keith was on the wrong side of the puck. And so there's our veteran defenseman brought to sort of settle down the team. And I mean, he's had some good games and he's done some good things, but tonight was not one of those games, and we didn't see many of those things. He had a very, very, very tough night. No,
He
very,
he
very, very, very tough night. 4 goals against.
he was Bruce right from the start. He was handling the puck like it was a lit stick of dynamite. Like seriously, he just never seemed settled with the puck on his stick. Maybe it was just like the size and ferocity of the wild forecheck. He was just thinking, okay, got to move the puck fast, got to move it fast, but he just went too fast. Because he's usually the strength of his game this year has been his play with the puck.
Mm-hmm.
He's had his struggles without the puck, covering players
Mm-hmm. I
and
agree.
some of his reads. But with the puck, he's been really good. Not this game though. There was just this, the first backhand pass to nobody except for the wild player who went in and scored.
Mm-hmm.
That was not like Duncan Keith. He doesn't
No.
hasn't made that play, but he made it tonight. It's gonna, and you know what? These things happen. Just
Mm-hmm.
like Stengel's saying, about a third of the games are
Yeah.
guaranteed last night. For NHL players, about 1 in 10 games are going to be a stinker. Like
Yeah.
they just, for almost every player, they're going to have a stinker game, 1 in 10 games, and that includes Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. They're going to have stinker games, and this was Duncan
Mm-hmm.
Keith's night. Um, Most definitely, I gave him in the game grades, I gave him a 2 out of 10, and that
That's
was not being unkind. That was being fair. So
Yeah, there was another play that didn't result in a goal, but where the Oilers actually had got possession in Minnesota's end, and Bouchard was trying a simple D to D pass across the blue line. And he fired this grenade that came out of the zone. Then Keith backed off, and then rather than make a play on the puck, he backed off some more. And the next thing you know, Minnesota's coming down into Edmonton's territory with the puck. And the Oilers were stuck in their own end for a while. And it was just, even from a good position, they found a way to go backwards. It just was not clicking for that twosome tonight.
Keith finally makes a good play. He whips the puck up to center ice to send Cassian in on a breakaway, right? Cassian made a nice play at center ice to seal off his checker and get the breakaway, but it was a nice heads-up play by Keith as well. And what does Cassian do? He misses Keith's probably thinking, I might get an assist here. That'll make up for a few of my mistakes. And Cass misses the net. He doesn't even hit the net on the shot, so that was kind of painful. Yeah, not Duncan Keith's night. Another player, it was Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' day today. It was his birthday, 29th birthday, Bruce. And had me thinking, I went to Red Deer and interviewed Nuge. We did a profile on him when he was drafted first overall by the Oilers. And I remember when he was just 18 going to interview him. And he was a very composed young man even then.
Yes.
Not surprising. He's the first overall pick in the NHL draft. Those individuals, not always, but often tend to be fairly centered and composed people. Anyway, he's been in Edmonton all these years, and he's a fan favorite, but man, he had a rough game tonight. And we'll start off just with the second goal. Bouchard makes this really brutal soft turnover, and the Wild starts cycling the puck, and they bring it out to the point. And I can't remember who. I think it was Fiala at the point, and Nuge goes for him, and Fiala passes it in past Nugent Hopkins. So that's the first mistake. Nugent Hopkins allows a point or a pass into the slot, and then he makes the worst mistake. He goes he tries to bump, I think, Fiala, and Fiala just steps aside and charges into the slot, and it's Nuge's check who scores that goal. So that was a tough defensive play by Nugent Hopkins. Then on the fifth goal off the faceoff, Nugent Hopkins makes the wrong read just for a microsecond. And instead of heading out to the point to cover the point, which is his job, he's on the wing there because Ryan's taken the faceoff. He kind of hesitates, and then he's stuck on the boards behind the play, allowing the shot on net. So he makes a bad read. He's not covering a passing lane. He's not covering any player. There's an open point shot, which is tipped on net and then put in the net. So he's in the red light zone for that one. So two pretty big defensive miscues by Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Hey, these things happen fast. Like at any level of hockey, who's ever playing, it always feels fast when you're on the ice, of course. But the NHL level, it's just so unbelievably fast. And, his mistakes were of that kind, just bang, bang, just 1 microsecond mistakes where he makes the wrong read. He goes for a check, which he can't make. He thinks he's going to go try to win the puck, help out Ryan in the faceoff circle, and it goes the other way all of a sudden, and then he's caught out. So these are just these small moments in a game, and they are so fast. But he was unable to make up for either of them, and they both ended up in the net. He did make up for it almost. It would have been wonderful if he could have scored. He got a great 5-alarm chance late in the third period where he got Fogle set him up for a great shot in front of the net, but he couldn't score, unfortunately. I don't think we mentioned the grade A shots yet, but they were as painful as the score. The grade A shots were actually 12-6 for the Wild, but the 5-alarm shots, the really highest quality scoring chance shots on net were 9-3 for the Wild, 9-3. And since we've been actually tracking the 5-alarm shots, that's the lowest amount that the Oilers have had. It may be the lowest amount that any team's had in a game, and we've tracked them since Woodcroft started with the Oilers. So particular 5-alarm shots. So just 3 for the Oilers. They had nothing, and Nuge didn't have much either. Your number, Bruce.
Yeah, number. I have a few different choices, but I'll go with 9 minutes and 37 seconds, which is the total amount of time that the Oilers were able to hang with the Minnesota Wild during the season series of 180 minutes of hockey. They fell behind to stay at the 1:11 mark of the first period of the first game they played. That quickly fell behind 2-0. The second game they played, they made it to the 2:49 mark of the first period before conceding the first goal and fell behind 3-0 by the 6-minute mark. And then tonight, they made it all the way to 5 minutes and 37 seconds. So this is improvement. That they stayed at 0-0 before Minnesota opened the scoring. And in all three games, Minnesota then scored the second goal. In two of them, they scored the second, third, and fourth goals to just completely put it away. And the other one, they won 4-1 with, were in command the whole way. And so the Oilers just spent the whole three games chasing the score. It's like they should change their name to the Minnesota Kryptonite. And they've just got Edmonton's number. So I'll choose that, and I'll just make a passing reference to 3 games in a row, 1 goal in regulation for the Oilers. Not good enough, boys. Not good enough, boys. Got to put the puck in the net once in a while.
Yeah. 4-2, the Canucks over the Golden Knights at the end of the second period. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
My numbers are the grade A shots in those 3 games with the Wild, Bruce, which are even more discouraging because the Oilers are heading in the wrong direction. They had 11-7 grade A shots in the first game. Then they were outshot 6-13 and 6-12 in the last 2 games. Wow. So the last 2 games have been worse. The first 2 games against the Wild were marked by some of the worst goaltending performances of the year by Koskinen, and then Koskinen and Smith, who split the duties in the second game. Koskinen, in that first game, he had 7 grade A shots and he let in 4 goals. And that's a brutal performance. Tonight, he wasn't that, I gave him a 4 out of 10. He wasn't terrible. He didn't, he didn't steal the game, obviously. Would have been a heck of a game to steal, though, because if your own team isn't generating anything, just 1 goal, just 6 grade A shots, that's below half of the season average for the Oilers. They average about 14 a game, grade A shots, and they got 6. So the Oilers had nothing. But Koskinen wasn't the cause. But the Oilers, they're getting worse against the Wild this year. I guess if they were to play them in a playoff series, you could say, well, there's only one way it can go now. So that would be the hope.
Quickly. Yeah, in that second game, it was Smith who got the start, and he got the yank after 4 goals against in 13 minutes, I think it was. And then Koskinen came in and gave in 3 more. And in the first game, I went to the 4-1 game, the first game of the 3, and Koskinen let in one real stinker of a goal. I think it was the first one. It was a weird play off the backboards, and he got beat to the short side post, if I recall. It was I think it was the first goal, 1 minute into the game. So tonight, we would have liked to have seen, maybe 1 or 2 more saves from him, but that's not going to make the difference in a 5-1 game. And let's not forget there were plays like the one where Brett Kulak, from behind his own net with all day to pick a pass receiver, decides to rifle one up the middle right off a Wild guy who immediately fires a wicked shot in the top corner that Koskinen pulls down with his glove. Saved a goal on that one, but, it's kind of lost in the fog of war in this game. But he didn't have a lot of help. Let's put it this way. Oilers defensemen were much more involved in grade A 5-alarm shots for the Wild than the Oilers were able to generate all night long at the good end. I mean, directly involved, brutal turnover to the guy who scored, or plays of that ilk.
Yeah, it was really a rough game for the defense. The only defenseman, Bruce, who actually came out of that unscathed was Darnell Nurse. He had one of his better games at even strength that we've seen. He kept a clean sheet at even strength, not one major mistake on a grade A shot against at even strength. He did have one moment on the power play where he let a slot pass in, which will happen. But he was really good. And not really good, but he was okay. He didn't get a lot done offensively, but he held his own in the defensive end at least, which was it's a good sign. As has been pointed out, he plays a lot of tough minutes, Darnell Nurse does. And that's been a higher number since Jay Woodcroft has taken over. Jay Woodcroft, I think, is much more likely to match lines and try to get certain players out there. And he gets Darnell Nurse out there in all the tough situations. I don't know if that happened tonight, though, so much. I don't know if that Kaprizov line, how much Nurse would have played against them tonight. That would be. It seemed like Bouchard and Keith were out there a lot against those guys. So anyway,
Yeah,
Nurse
that's
was okay.
sure.
Yeah, not the best. All right, Bruce. So Thursday in Nashville.
Thursday in Nashville. I'm pretty confident saying they'll be better in that game than they were tonight. Just looking up. Yeah, Nurse, the forward he played the most was Kaprizov.
It was a.
Yeah, 628. And he played 8 minutes against the Kulikov-Brodin pairing of Minnesota. So, but fairly balanced. And of course, a lot of this game was garbage time. So in those situations, often the coaches will get out of the hard matchup stuff, especially when he's starting to go to the blender like Woodcroft was for a big chunk of this game.
Yeah. All right, Bruce. Well, let's leave it there, and we'll talk again on Thursday night. Thanks for talking tonight.
Right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.